Hey, what's going on, geometry students? Now with our last video, we looked at parallelograms in general. Now we're going to get a little more specific, and right now we're going to look at a rhombus. Now, a rhombus has four properties, and they're over here to the right. It says that it's a parallelogram. So it means it has all the properties you just learned, like opposite angles are congruent. The second one is that we have four congruent sides. So that means all the sides of our rhombus are equal. The third property is that the diagonals are perpendicular, which you know means that it forms a right angle. And property number 4 is that the diagonals bisect the angles. Now let's see what this actually looks like. So let's look at this first one. It's DIMA is a rhombus. Find MA. Well, so this is the side we're trying to find. We're trying to find side MA. We know that all four sides are equal. So if this side, DI, is 10, what's MA? It's 10. And we used this second property right there. We used property number 2, that all four sides are congruent. Easy enough. Let's look at number 2. It says DIMA is a rhombus. Find angle MOA. So let's trace that angle. M to O to A. So we're looking for this angle right here. Well, what do we know? Well, if we look at our properties, the fact that it's four congruent sides, that's not going to help us. Parallelograms really didn't say too much about diagonals. It's not that. But look at property number 3. If the diagonals are perpendicular, so these diagonals right here, I'll actually draw it in green. So these diagonals right here, if they're perpendicular, what does that mean? That means we have right angles, right? Right angle here, right angle here, right angle here, right angle there. So what is angle MOA? Well, angle MOA equals 90 degrees, because it's a right angle. Let's look at example number 3. It says DIMA is a rhombus. Find angle MDI. Well, first let's find what is MDI? M to D to I. So it looks like it's this whole thing. Well, let's go through our properties, and we know it's going to be property 4. That's the one we haven't done yet, right? But understand that the diagonals bisect the angles. What's that mean? If you bisect something, that means you cut it in half. So that means if this piece is 68, what's this piece over here? You guessed it, 68. No, not 680, 68 degrees, right? Now, they didn't just ask us to find that small piece, they want us to find the whole angle, right? The whole angle MDI. So how do we find that? You guessed it, 68 plus 68, and that equals 136. Or you can think of it as 68 times 2, right? Which is also 136. So these problems were pretty easy. Let's take a look at some of the next examples we might have for you. Here we go. It says find the length of BC given rhombus ABCD. Well, they want us to find the length of BC, which means it's this piece right here, which is labeled 6x plus 12. And they gave us that this is 60. So we're working with the sides of the rhombus, so we should automatically think which property? You guessed it. 4 congruent sides, right? So if this side is equal to this side, why don't we set them equal to each other? So 6x plus 12 equals 60. Minus 12, minus 12, 6x equals 48. Divided by 6, and x equals 8. Great, we're done, right? Wrong. We only solve for x. We want to find the length of the side. How do we find the length? You plug the value in for x. So over here, we'll plug in we'll plug in 8 for x. 6 times 8 plus 12. That's 48 plus 12. Which means the length is 60. But guess what? We should have already known that, because if all 4 sides are equal, we should have known the length was 60. But if they ask you to solve for x, that's how you do that. Here's number 2. It says if DMLK is a rhombus and angle DAK is 3x plus 27, find the value of x. Well, angle DAK is right here. It's on the inside of the rhombus. When you see diagonals and an angle on the inside, you should automatically think something to do with that right there. Our diagonals are perpendicular, right? So that means, just like we drew before, if these diagonals are perpendicular, I have a right angle here, and here, and here, and here. Which means 3x plus 27 is going to be equal to 90 degrees. So 3x plus 27 equals 90 degrees. So we subtract by 27 on both sides. We get 3x equals, what's that, 63? And then we divide by 3. X equals 21. Easy enough. You guys are flying through this. We're doing a great job. Now number 3. Uh-oh. This could be a beast, right? Let's see. So once again, DMLK is a rhombus. If ADK is 12x minus 35, let's label that first. ADK, which means it's right here. So 12x minus 35. And ADM. I'm going to label that in red. We have ADM is negative 6x plus 19. What is the value of x? Well, we have to look at it. We've got our diagonals. What do we know about diagonals? Well, we know that all these angles equal right angles, but that doesn't help us with these angles. But if you remember from our previous examples, we know that our diagonals, they bisect the angles, right? So it bisects this, which means negative 6x plus 19 is actually equal to 12x minus 35, right? Because if I bisect something, I cut it into 2 equal pieces. So let's give ourselves some room. If you can get to this point, you know you just have to combine your like terms, right? So we're going to add a 6x to both sides. We'll get 19 equals 18x minus 35. And then we know that we have to get the x by itself. So we'll have 18x equals 35 and 19 will give us 54. And finally we divide by 18. X equals 3. And there's our answer. So if you see diagonals and they are bisecting an angle, you set those angles equal to each other. Now what about problem 4? This says don't forget your parallelogram properties. Well, let's see what happens. It says ABCD is a rhombus. Find angle C. So angle C, if you remember, is this whole piece, right? The whole thing. So first we have to figure out what is our relationship between A and C. Oh, that's a parallelogram property. Opposite angles are congruent, right? So we know, because of a parallelogram property, that angle A is equal to angle C. However, we don't know everything in angle A, right? We're still missing this piece. So if we could find that piece somehow, we could solve this. But wait a minute. Just in this previous problem, we have the exact same thing. Remember the diagonals right here? They bisect the angle. So if this is 42, how much is x? X is 42 also. So how do you find the whole length of angle A? Well, angle A is equal to 42 plus 42. That's going to equal angle C. And when it's all said and done, angle C is going to equal 84 degrees. So there's a problem where it's going to use a combination of your knowledge, but you all are so smart, I know you're not going to have any problems with it. So, what about the next problems? Oh, now it's time for you to practice. Good luck. I know you're going to do great things.